everyone, thanks for joining me for this paper collage tutorial for Craft Friday with Spoonflower. I'll tell you a little bit about me first before we get started. I'm Pippa and I go under the name Chimps Tea Party, and I'm a paper collage artist. So I make things by hand using scissors and glue, things like this, and then I use the collages to make fabrics like this on Spoonflower, or products like cushions and table runners, things like that. I love making things with my hands, and I think it gives the finished designs like a really different kind of tactile, textural quality. That's another little one I've made. Yeah, things like this. They're all a bit retro, vintage inspired, because I love everything 50s and 60s. So today we're going to be making a paper collage of a house. It can be your own house, a friend's house, or just a house you love. So it'll be something like this. This is what I made of my own house, and we're going to decorate them for Christmas. And then I'll show you how to put them into the computer so that you could print them onto Christmas cards, or fabrics, or wall hangings, or cushions, or anything you want. So you'll need just scissors, some kind of glue. I'm just going to use a Prick stick today. Coloured papers, like so, anything you want really. It doesn't even have to be accurate to your house, just whatever you want to use. I've got coloured paper, and then I found some extra bits like this brown wrapping paper, which has a bit of a stripe on it, and some gold paper. And then you'll need something to work from, so you can have a little printed out photo of your house, or you can just have it on your phone or up on the computer screen or something if that's easier. Let's go. So if you've got your photo of your house in front of you, you just want to pick out the colours you want to use. So I've got pale blue for the main bit of the house, some white for the details, and then I've got yellow front door, and then I picked some nice bright colours to make Christmas decorations with as well. So we're going to start with the basic shape, and then we'll start adding more and more detail as we go along. Right, so I usually just go straight in with the scissors rather than drawing anything, but obviously if you prefer to draw the shape first, just pencil it out on the back and then flip it over and cut it out. But I think it's fun just to go straight in. So I'm going to start with the whole shape of the house and do that in white. So I'm just going to keep it really simple and go for a straight square. So as you can see, like over the bay window here, you've got like a weird perspective. I chose in my finished house not to do any of that because it looked a bit weird. So I'm just kind of looking at it as if it's flat rather than the actual shape it is there. It just makes it look a bit more normal once it's finished. So I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to add on these blue panels and cut out the windows. Cutting it out, and then we'll see if everything fits, and we can trim bits off if it's too big. Obviously, if your house is all one colour, then that's much easier for you. You can just start on the other details. Right, so that's all the blue panels done now, and I'm just going to stick those down. And something like Prick stick is quite good because there's a bit of movement after you put the pieces down, so you can shift them a little bit if they don't look quite right. And just don't worry about being too accurate. Take a bit of artistic license with the shapes and everything and just make it look just nice. It doesn't have to be a photograph. Now, for the roof, I'm going to use some of this brown textured paper. So I thought it looks a little bit like roof tiles. I'm just going to get a straight edge first. And again, I'll just measure. I mean, I live in a terraced house, so there's houses attached to both sides of it. But again, I'm going to take a little bit of artistic license and just make the roof look a nice shape. So instead of doing it straight up, I'm going to put a bit of an angle on it. And then just measure how wide you want it. So there's your roof. If something comes out a bit wide, you can trim off the white bit afterwards. So let's just glue that down. I really enjoy just doing it without drawing anything first, because you can just trim bits here and there and just have a bit of fun with it. Now we need a little chimney. So I'm going to turn this paper the other way so the stripes are going a different way to the roof, just so that it stands out a little bit more. And just do a really simple chimney shape. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit like a house now. So let's do the front door, because that's quite important. And also, if you wanted to just focus on just the front door with a bit of house around it, you could do that instead of doing the whole house. If you've got a particularly nice front door. Mine is bright yellow. And again, I'm just going to measure this over the collage. And then again, we can measure it to see how tall we want it. So I'm just measuring it against this blue bit. It's got a window there, so you probably want it about that tall. Now I think we better do the windows. So I quite like to cut these out of the paper rather than sticking them on top, because then you can experiment with different things through the window. Like, for example, this one I've put a Christmas tree behind and a black background, and then this one I've made some like pleated curtains. So you can just have a bit more fun with it if you cut them out. You can either use scissors or a knife for this. I'm just going to cut a little hole there and work my way out. This could be quite fun as well if you wanted to do this with your kids. You could make the house part, and then you could get them to make a design just to stick behind the windows afterwards. Now for things like this where there's a raised bit, a bit of detail there, you could just use a colour that's darker than the main colour of your house. So I can use a bit of grey for mine. And I'm just going to put those lines on just to give it a bit of definition. So for the little window ledge under the window where there's a bit of a shadow, I'm just going to do a little thing like that. Now we want to put the crossbars in the windows like this. So for that I'm just going to cut some strips of white paper. I want it to be a little bit longer than the window because we're going to glue it behind this gap. Flip this over and just put a bit of glue down, and that can stick across there. Okay, so it'll look like that. And I'm just going to do the same with the other windows. Now add any other details that you want. Right, that looks like the main bulk of the house done. Now we can start decorating it for Christmas. So let's start with the windows and fill those in. You can put anything you want behind the windows as we've left them open. So you could have a black background behind there and then put anything you want in between, like a Christmas tree, or you could have stars hanging in the window or something like that. I'll show you how to do the curtains that I did on my house. So choose the colour you want your curtains and go for a nice bright pink to contrast with the house. And then you want to just measure that so it's a bit bigger than the window, a bit taller I mean. And just cut a strip of paper. And we're doing 2 curtains, so I'm just going to cut that in half so that we've got 2 pieces to work with. So I'm just going to fold little pleats into the paper. This is why you want to start off with a bit of paper that's quite a lot wider than you need, because it's going to get a lot smaller when we do this. So I'm just pinching that into a fold and flattening it down like that. So as you can see, when you put that behind, you've got a nice bit of texture. So we'll do the other one. So I'm just going to glue that down. So if we flip this over and flip the curtain bits over, and then we'll just glue along the above the window, below it, and then we'll just stick this down where we want them. I'm going to do it at a bit of an angle so that we have a bit of window showing through, a bit of a gap in the curtains. And then we'll just glue there. I'm just going to go for a black square behind that so it looks like a room. You could have maybe, let's see what a yellow would look like. Just have a warm yellow or something so it looks like there's a light on. That could be nice. Or you could put, if you want to go really detailed, you could have somebody looking out of the curtains. Or a dog or something. I'll stick with black for that. There's some nice curtains. You can decide what you want to put in the other windows. I'll try that behind. Again, that can go a bit. And then I'm going to put a little star on top of it. So just get some of the scrap of the yellow paper. Okay. And I'll just stick that to the top of the tray behind the window. And then again, I'm probably just going to put a square of black paper behind that. Add as many decorations as you want. You can put a little snowman out the front, or what I'm going to do is make a wreath for the front door and then some fairy lights along the roof. So I'll show you how to do that. For the wreath, I'm just going to measure the size we want it. That looks about the right size. And then I'm going to cut a circle, but with a wiggly line, so it looks a bit like foliage. And then cut a hole inside as well. So I'm going to stick that on there, and then I'll add a little bow to it just to make it a bit more special. Right, now for the fairy lights. So I've done, on my example, strings all around the top of the roof and around the window. So I'll just show you how to do some of those. So I've basically just made the fairy light wire with some black paper, so you can just cut out the shape that you want. So let's go around this window. Again, if you just cut a square that's a bit bigger than your window, and then I'm just gonna make curved corners, and then we're gonna cut out the centre of this. So you've got a little outline, which is your Christmas lights wire, and go ahead and stick that down. Okay, now for the fun bit, the colourful lights. So I've picked out some nice colours. I'm just going to use these little scraps because it's a bit easier. Okay, so those are my fairy light colours. Right, and to make them, I've just cut out little simple shapes of each colour. So I'm just going to do like a little teardrop shape almost. You could just do them round if you wanted. If you just do a few of each colour. So once you've got a few of each colour, we can start sticking them down around the wire that we put on. So I'm just going to start anywhere and just put a little bit of glue every kind of couple of centimetres, and then you just pick up one of the little coloured shapes and just pop that on. Any order you want. And again, I quite like these to be all angled different ways so they look more like real fairy lights. And okay, there we go. That's fairy lights. And you can put them around every window if you want, or along the roof. You could put photos of your family in the windows looking out, or something like that. Anything you want. Just keep going, add as much or as little as you want, and then I'll show you how to get this into the computer so that you can get it printed on something. Scan it in, or if you don't have a scanner, just put it on a plain background to make it easier, and then just take a photo of it from above with your phone or whatever, and then send that to your computer. So once you've scanned it in or put a photograph of it into your computer, we're going to just cut it out. So this is where it will really help you if you just if you really simplified the shape of your house and give it quite square edges, and make it much easier at this point. So if your house is a nice square shape, you can click on the polygonal selection tool and just select each corner of your house. And if your house isn't such a square shape, you might want to use the magnetic selection tool. You can then just draw a rough outline around the house and it will stick to the edges as much as possible. And when you finish the selection, you can click on the mask tool there, and you can make sure everything you want is included. So you can use the rubber tool, the eraser, to add to your selection. So where there's red showing on the house roof there, you can rub that out. Or use the paintbrush tool to get rid of things from the selection. So just make sure all of your house is included. And then when that's done and you're happy with it, you can just make a new plain document the size that you want. And then you just use the move tool to drag the house onto the new plain background. And then click on free transform and change the size so that it fits on the page. Now we just want to make the colours a bit nicer, so I usually just increase the brightness and the contrast a little bit, and then the saturation as well, just to make the colours really nice and bright. Then we're going to click on the circle underneath your layers and click on solid colour when you're on the background layer. And then you can choose any background colour you like to go behind your house. You can play around with what looks nice. I've chosen quite a dark blue for mine. So it looks like the night sky. And then you could, that's quite nice, and then you can decorate it with maybe, if we do a new layer, you can add, say, some snow falling. So I'm just going to do a hard brush and choose the size of my snowflakes. Okay, and then you can also put, say, the ground in. So I'm just going to have a white rectangle there, so it looks like snow. And there you go. And that's it. You can add text if you wanted to make Christmas cards, or you can then just take this into Spoonflower and order something with your print on. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. If you do make along with it, tag Chimps Tea Party and Spoonflower on Instagram so we can see what you've done. I'd love to see it. And